Good morning. My name is Michelle York, and I'm here today to tell you about the great things God has done for me. First, I feel it's important for everyone to know that I was raised in a home without knowledge of God or Christ. I did not know until my late 20s that the Jesus we see in the manger is also the Christ we see on the cross. I only knew that it all had something to do with God. No one ever explained any of it to me. At some point in my late 20s, I came to the realization that Jesus was the man on the cross and became repelled and disgusted for lack of understanding of the why of the whole thing. However, when I was very young, I had an experience in a Catholic church at a midnight mass with my grandparents. We would go with them every so often, but not every year. I had no Christian education. So somewhere between the ages of 5 and 10, I was sitting there looking up at the cross in despair, wondering what the man could have done to deserve such a punishment. When all at once, a lightness of being came over me, or perhaps I became aware of something greater there in the air all around me all at once. I remember looking up into the rafters of that church and getting a sense of what I now call the presence of God. And that presence made all of the grief and woe I felt, the tears for the injustice done to the man on the cross, simply lifted away. I was at once filled with peace and wonder so profound and impactful. I spent much of my time after wanting to become a Catholic priest. I remember from that night thinking, imagine what it would be like to live here. Little did I know that living in the presence of God did not mean living in a Catholic church. At the age of 16, I confessed to my grandmother's desire to become a priest, and she told me I was just a girl. To put it in her exact words, that you're just a girl. And with that disgust her voice carried was imparted a knowledge that I would never be able to achieve my ultimate goal of becoming a priest. I was not therefore, to my mind and understanding, good enough for God. I felt worthless, rejected not only by my grandmother, but by God as well. Quickly thereafter, I started drinking and drugging with my theater friends from school and bartering my body as currency with the boys around me in an attempt to recapture the love I found in the church rafters and lost so completely at the hands of my grandmother. This was a pattern that would last for many years. For a time, I believed I was homosexual, but upon dating towards that direction, I soon discovered that I was not at all gay. My mantra was always, what the hell is wrong with me? So I continued bartering my body for the love of any boy that would have me. About this time, I became involved in Wicca after reading a book suggested by one of my friends. And that book recognized the divinity of both male and female. Although I never actually believed in the deity of the god and goddess, I stayed in Wicca with my pagan beliefs about the feminine divine until my Christian conversion in 2008. I became pregnant while involved in a long-term relationship with a boy, and the boy didn't want me to keep it. I was afraid of losing him, and so I got an abortion. This I believe, is the single most detestable thing I've ever done. I knew it then, and I know it now. How God can forgive that kind of thing, I do not know, and often wonder as late into the night. The father of the child I'd aborted was then sleeping around while I was grieving my choice. So I left him with the help of a lesbian friend of mine. I started a relationship with her, but again, the gay thing just did not work for me. I confessed to her that I'd always wanted to be a male, and told her of the many strange dreams I'd had of being transformed into a man by magic. She told me there were groups for people like me, and that she wanted to help me become Matthew. I then joined a transgender support group, and after a year, they encouraged me to start hormones. I spoke with my older sister on the phone about it that night, and she said she would out me to the family, most importantly my grandparents, who were very devout Catholics. So, at the fear of losing my grandparents, I stopped the transgender thing, left the girl, and was engaged to be married less than a year later. During my 5-year marriage, I was blessed with 2 wonderful children. Most of you have met them. While I was married, I attended church with his family and got baptized so his mother would stop casting strange looks at me when I let communion pass by without partaking. I was, however, by no means saved. I must make it clear now that I did not get married because I was in love, but rather because I wanted to escape from the transgender thing and I wanted to have children. Getting married without loving him is the second worst thing I've ever done. Due to the loveless state of the marriage, it was a disaster and unhappy for its entire length. The marriage ended less than 6 months after 9/11. I returned to the home of the lesbian who was then married to her lover, where I decided all my troubles were due to the fact that I was a man living in the body of a woman. I decided to pursue gender reassignment and get a college degree in social work to help other transsexuals escape from their misfortunes. And there was always the vain, stupid, fragile idea that if I were a man, I would finally at last be allowed into the presence of God's love again. I knew there was no way I'd ever be a priest, but I thought maybe if I am a man, God will at least love me again. So from the summer of 2002 until roughly 2006, 2007, I was on male hormones, pursuing full hormonal and surgical alteration of my physical body. This goal had faded, though, sometime in 2007, 2006, due to the surgeries being financially out of my reach and the less successful surgeries of friends. I was stuck in a state of limbo. This half-life was not the happiness I'd always imagined. My voice had changed, though, and I was seen by most everyone I knew and met as the male I was pretending to be. You can just ask Andrew, he'll tell you how much I looked like a man. Anyway, I felt like a fraud. I felt like a sham. As my sister put it to me in a blunt conversation, I was living a life of pain and isolation. I had no friends outside of the Wicca circle. I couldn't trust anyone with the reality of the real me. I felt I would be rejected, abhorred, humiliated if anyone knew the truth. In short, I again felt worthless. Like always, God was not there. I couldn't feel him like I had that one time in church. Only the lives of my 2 children kept me here. If I had not had those 2 children in the marriage, I would not be here today speaking to you. I would have killed myself. I moved to Leavenworth, Kansas in November of 2007. The 2 apartments on either side of mine were empty. I prayed that interesting people would move in. I prayed that God would send me a friend, in spite of my crazy dysfunction, that God would somehow work it out so that the person or persons who moved into one or both apartments would be enabled to step in and see me not as the freak I created myself to be, but he or she would be able to see beyond my outer appearance and see me for the person worthy of true friendship. Near the beginning of December, someone moved into the apartment next door to mine. Although I saw no one for a couple of days. Coming home from work one night, I saw the new neighbor silhouetted in the outer doorway of the apartment building. There was a strange glow around him, which I attributed to the interior lights at the time. As the days passed, I saw him a few more times, on and off, but always there was this glow around him, which I didn't understand. On Easter morning, 2008, my neighbor, who here shall be named Andrew Hudley, knocked or maybe rang the bell, I don't remember which, and from the dark interior of my apartment, I raced to the door, thinking it was a Wicca friend come for another lesson. As I opened the door, a shining brilliance greeted me. I blinked, astonished, trying to make out the figure standing there in the light, and something I'd read or heard came into my mind. Lord, is that you? As this thought raced through my mind, it was Easter morning, please remember. My rational mind responded to, it's only the sun's rays dazzling your retinas. But the significance of the day could not be mistaken. It was Easter morning, a time of miracles. I smiled then as my eyes adjusted to the light. It was God's messenger, my next door neighbor, Andrew Hoffman, standing there. I knew in an instant, without a moment of doubt, that he was going to show me the way into God's love. Andrew led me to Christ, and I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior that following Thursday night. I was baptized later in April at First Family Church by Pastor Jeremy. The small miracles continued after that. I've left out so many. I haven't even told you about Andrew's whiteboard of evangelism. I'm writing a book about it, and I don't want to give anyone the idea that I'm a perfect example of the Christian walk. I fall more than I stand. It was only by God's grace that I was redeemed. And there have been so many moments wherein I felt myself standing there in the light of God's love all around me, that I know that I have found the true and right path. There have been so many miraculous moments, it's impossible to stand here and relate them without taking up Jay's entire service. I no longer want to kill myself. I feel God's love when I am in obedience, and even when I have only just prayed for forgiveness. I'm working on not harboring ill will towards my physical body. And as I was telling Andrew in an email just the other day, I am learning to be content, praying that God would continue to help me be a better person in all areas of my Christian life and walk. I wanted to leave you with a final thought. And that is that you must go forth into the world, not as though your presence does not matter. I hold with the thought that God cast his light so brightly from Andrew, not just to save me. No, in the spinning expanse of time and space, I am nothing but a speck. God showed me his light through Andrew for a purpose. I sometimes wonder, with all that I have been through, I wonder, what else could there possibly be, Lord? Why can I not just go to heaven now after everything? But I know the truth is that I've been saved for a purpose. I'm here with this life story for a reason, and so too are all of you. So when you go forth into the vast, sprawling world, keep in mind that you cannot possibly be aware in any given moment when God's light is shining for someone else to see. You never know when that gay person or that transgender person that you may not even be aware of is watching you and what you're doing. As you leave today, I encourage you to be God's glow, because you never know whose soul you might be saving. Thank you all.